Good afternoon, students. Am I audible?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Oh,
afternoon, ma'am.
good afternoon, Bacho. Good afternoon. So yesterday let's quickly revise what we did yesterday. So we did a few definitions yesterday, right? We discussed about a few common terms that are being used in plant pathology. So who will tell me what is plant pathology? What do you mean by plant pathology? Yes, Namrata, go for it.
Ma'am, it is the branch of agricultural and botanical or biological sciences
Which deals with
which deals with the causes, etiology, and control of plant diseases.
Mhm. Okay, so now will tell me what is disease? How do we define disease? What do you mean by disease? बहुत बार पढ़ लिया हमने अब disease आपको याद होनी चाहिए. Yes, Sahiba, go for it.
Ma'am, diseases are the physiological disorders or abnormality that
Mhm.
is harmful to the plant or any product that reduces the economic value.
Yes, so diseases lead to some kind of changes in the plant due to which maybe losses or some other negative effects occur and they cause a lot of economic losses also. Yes. So who will tell me what is a symptom? Yes, Nehal, what is symptom?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Ma'am,
Yeah, you're
are
audible.
the visible changes on the plants, like change in color, shape, or the function?
It's called visible changes which we can see on the plants due to the infection or due to the pathogens which are visible to us are called symptoms, right? So now who will tell me what are signs? What is sign? Yes, Manaswani.
Ma'am, so a sign is basically some kind of physical evidence which indicates the presence of the pathogen. So, in case of there's ooze, which happens in case of bacterial,
Mm-hmm.
infections or anything that shows that the pathogen is definitely growing in the plant is a sign.
Yes, so sign are the visible changes which, for example, if we are visiting any field and we are looking for the symptoms, and we basically when we go to the field, we look for the symptom also and we look for the signs also. So signs are the part of the pathogens which are remaining on the plant, such as bacterial spores or oozes, fungal spores or ooze which come out of the plants which are infected by bacteria. So those are the signs of the plant pathogens or plant diseases on the plant basically, right, which tell us that there is some kind of a plant disease and they could be different for the bacteria, fungi or viruses, right? So next is basically what is disease triangle. Yes, बहुत बार पढ़ लिया है, अब तो आप लोगों को सबको पता होना चाहिए disease triangle क्या है. What is disease triangle? What are its component? Other people जिन्होंने आंसर नहीं किया. I want to let if you have
Ma'am,
come
can
down.
I?
Sahiba, you have not answered earlier. Okay, Sahiba, go for it.
Okay, ma'am. Actually, that was Devanshi who spoke. But
Okay,
I can.
Devanshi. Okay, Devanshi. Let Devanshi say. Yes, Devanshi.
Ma'am, actually, I was not able to raise my hand.
So that's why you spoke. I was also thinking कि साहिबा से देवांशी की आवाज क्यों आ रही है मुझे या मेरे कान में देवांशी की आवाज आ रही है. Okay,
Ma'am,
Devanshi. Go for it.
basically, the disease triangle is the relationship between the environment, host, and pathogen. These are the three main components. For the infection, pathogen needs a particular host and a favorable environment to infect a particular organism. So,
Okay.
this is disease triangle.
Yes, so disease triangle is basically we have three components. Host, so host should be susceptible. environment should be favorable and pathogen should be virulent to cause a particular disease. And all these factors, when they are favorable for any disease to take place, then only disease will take place. For example, if pathogen is not susceptible, that means disease will not take place, even if the environmental factors are favorable, or even if the host is virulent. Or if pathogen is not virulent enough to cause the disease, doesn't matter if our host is susceptible or environment is favorable. So all these factors, they should be in a line to cause a particular disease. Yes, that's right. And my next question is incubation period. What is incubation period? Yes, Namrita.
Ma'am, it is the time interval between the penetration of the host by a pathogen and the
Mm-hmm.
and the first appearance of a symptom on the host.
Yes, that's right. So incubation period is the time taken by a particular pathogen. The day it is calculated from the day it is infecting a particular plant, it is penetrating the plant till the time when it is showing any kind of a visible symptom. So that time is known as the incubation period. Okay, so one another question is syndrome. So what do you understand by the term syndrome?
Ma'am, can I answer?
Yes, you can answer, Tridev.
Yeah, ma'am. So basically, syndrome is a collectivity of symptoms, basically, like when there are various valuable symptoms are there of a disease and it can be recognized through it.
Yes, so syndrome means that number of the symptoms are being shown on the plant due to a infection by a pathogen, and this term is commonly sometimes we use for also when sometime plant is infected by one or two pathogens. So usually a variable number of symptoms can be seen together, right? So that is called a symptom, right? So okay, so today's lecture we are doing that we are going to do today is about fungi as a plant pathogen. So fungi and its property and its characteristics are, it's just an overview I'm giving. I'm not discussing in detail because in plant science one you have studied a lot of fungi, I guess. So you know what are fungi, you know what is their, how they reproduce, what is their life cycle, and what is their mode of nutrition, how is their thallus, and how is their septa, everything you know, right? So basically I'll just give you overview of the fungi. So, but we are more focused, we'll be more focusing on the symptoms which are shown by fungi on the plant. So this is a combined chapter where we'll discuss about the fungi and the symptoms which are shown by fungi on the plant. And after the lecture, I'll be uploading one PDF. So that PDF has a very detailed account of the fungi. So basically, you don't need that detailed, information for this particular course, but still basics of a fungi you should know. So that will be basically a revision of what you have already studied in the plant science one. So that will you'll somewhere freshen up your memories about what are the different spores, what are the sexual spores, what are asexual spores, what are the different types of the cycles in the fungi. So you can just go through those things quickly so that you will understand fungi as a pathogen also, right? So this thing will be helpful when we are going to study fungi as a pathogen and their life cycle. So वहाँ पे ये terms बहुत commonly आएंगी. So what I want is to just go through those things so that आपको थोड़ा सा याद हो जाए पहले आपने first semester में जो भी पढ़ा था, right? Okay, this is it. I need to upload another PPT, just a moment. Just give me 1 second while it is uploading. Just a moment, I don't know ये दूसरी वाली PPT क्यों upload नहीं हो रही है. Just give me some time. The network is very slow and I guess it is taking time to upload. Okay, students, I'll share my screen. Somehow I'm unable to upload the PPT, so I'll share my screen. Uh, is this visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fungi, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Just let me know when if it is not visible because all I can see is the screen now. I cannot see you all. Right. So fungi, if we talk about the characteristics of fungi, so we all know they are unicellular, they are filamentous, they have a hyphae or a hypha, right? And then the aggregate of hypha is called as a mycelium, and they also produced sometimes sclerotium, which are hardened mass of mycelium and which are used in the overwintering stage, or they survive the unfavorable conditions. Then they produce certain fruiting bodies. So fruiting bodies are basically the structures or multicellular structures on which the spore forming structures are produced, such as basidiospores or esci or escus, on which the different spores of the fungi are being produced. So they form fruiting bodies. And if we talk about the characteristic of fungi, they could be saprophytes, that means they feed on dead tissues, or they are called decomposers. They could be symbionts, that means they mutually beneficial each other if they are symbionts. So we are mostly focusing on the parasites here because feeding on living tissue of an host, and they cause the diseases also. So parasitic fungi are the usually one which cause diseases also, and they produce different kind of spores. So we all know about fungi, their characteristics that the spores could be the asexual or the sexual one, and the use of spores is it plays a very important role in the movement of fungus from one part to the another part. And the spores, they have a certain stages in which they allow fungus to survive period of adversity. So this is how when one crop is over in a particular field, these spores, they can survive when the crop is not there, maybe in the soil or in some other form. And whenever the weather is favorable or the plant is growing, they can germinate and they can begin their life cycle again, right? Same. And then spores are reproductive cells also. So there are sexual and asexual spores, both kind, and they are formed on the hyphae or sporangia or on the fruiting bodies, right? Then fungus, they grow through its food surface on the substratum, and they excrete cellular extracellular digestive enzymes to absorb the dissolved food. This is how they feed on them. Then vegetative phase of the fungus is generally sedentary, and they have a cell wall present, which could be of a cellulose or a chitin. They store their food in the form of lipids and glycogen. They are eukaryote, that means they have a true nucleus. All fungi, they require water and oxygen. They lack chlorophyll. They almost grow in every habitat which we can imagine. So fungi are found everywhere. They are very diverse, and lot of number of species are found everywhere of these fungi, right? So if we talk about the classification broadly into four groups, Zygomycota, Ascomycota, and Basidiomycota. So they are differentiated on the basis of the fruiting bodies that they are forming, right? So chytrids are the the simplest one, then the club fungi are the they are the complex ones if we talk about in that, right? Then they produce different kind of spores and fruiting bodies or a structure such as basidia. They produce basidiospores. In asci, they produce ascospores. In zygosporangia, they produce zygospores, right? So different kind of spores are being formed here. So Chytridium-mycota are the simplest fungi. They produce motile spores, which are called zoospores, and they mostly are saprophytes and parasites in aquatic habitats. Then we have a zygomycota or zygote fungi. They sexually reproduce by zygosporangia, and asexually they reproduce again some certain kind of asexual spores are being produced. Then they have a hyphae with no cross walls. They grow very rapidly. Again, they are decomposers, pathogens, and some form of mycorrhizal association with the plant. We have a ascomycota, which are called sac fungi also, because their fruiting body or their ascus is a sac-like structure. So that is why they are called sac fungi. And they are again decomposers, pathogens, and they are found in most lichens also. Then we have a club fungi, which are called Basidiomycota. Again, they are causing a lot of diseases such as rust and smuts in plant pathogen. They are act as a plant pathogen. Mushrooms, they also come under the Basidiomycota, and they are decomposers, pathogens, and some form of mycorrhizal association with the plants are found, right? So this was the journal, just an overview of a fungi, what are fungi or what is fungus, right? So what we are more here concerned about the types of the symptoms that fungi produces. For example, we discussed in detail the symptoms which are being produced by the viruses in the plants and the humans and animals. So here we are going to discuss about the kind of the symptom they are producing in the plant, right? So broadly, they are being classified into three types. The first one is necrotic symptom. The second one is abnormal growth and development of plant tissue. The third one is other symptoms. So some in this category, some symptoms come which are not being categorized in the first two categories. So they are being put in the third category as the other symptoms. So first one is the necrotic symptom. These are the very common symptoms. We studied the necrotic spots on the caused by the viruses also, but in fungus, these are very common symptoms produced by most of the pathogenic fungi. So they involve the death and destruction of plant tissue, resulting in the brittle appearance of the tissue. And sorry, all the symptoms in this category, they involve necrosis of the tissue from the reaction with the pathogen and result in the formation of the dead cells in the tissues. Necrotic means death of the tissue here. So the fungal pathogen in this case, when it reaches the host surface, they basically secrete some enzymes which kill the tissue, and then it digests the nutrient from the dead tissues. And sometimes the tissue death can also occur as a result of HR. HR is basically hypersensitive response. So what happens when plant is affected or infected by a certain kind of a pathogen? It generates a defense response, right? So it tries to prevent that pathogen to move further. So in plant also generate hypersensitive response, which is kind of a defense mechanism of the host against establishment and spread of the pathogen. So what they do by this response, they kill their own tissues in the place where the fungus is there. So they try to stop the fungus or pathogen at that particular place only, so that they don't move further. So in any case, the symptom produced can be either localized. Localized symptoms are at the point of infection with the host, or systemic. Systemic, not systematic, systemic. Systemic means spreading throughout the foliage or a stem or the entire. So two different kind of symptoms can be produced. Then second types, we have a leaf spots. Again, these are very common symptoms, or we can say localized lesions which are produced on the leaves of the host plant due to the pathogen infections. Variety of number of fungi such as Alternaria, Septoria, Cercospora, Phyllostricta, they all cause different type of a leaf spot on the plant when they infect, such as, for example, here we have a Cercospora leaf spot in Bohemia variegata. So this Bouvinia variegata, they have this heart-shaped or clubbed kind of a leaf. So this causes a Cercospora, they cause a leaf spot symptom in this plant, right? Then short hole. So short hole का मतलब है first dead tissue is formed or necrotic like spot is formed on the hole, and then the later with time this tissue falls out. So it falls out, leaving behind the holes on the leaves. So those type of a symptoms are caused known as a short hole. So dead tissue on the leaves, it falls out, it leaves behind the hole, and this is very common in peaches and plums, most commonly caused by Cercospora and Phyllostricta. So Cercospora leaf spot on a plum leaf is shown here in the picture, which leads to this dead kind of a tissue, and with time, these dead tissue, they falls out, leaving behind the hole, known as a short hole symptoms. Then blights. Again, blights are very common. They lead to the rapid destruction of the succulent tissues such as leaves, shoots, twigs, and blossoms. And the blighted tissue, they give rise to the tissue like it seems like they're burned because of the fire. You can see here, Escocita blight lesions on the chickpea. So the symptoms are shown as if the leaf has burned due to the fire. So that's it is called as a blight, right? Examples are Phytophthora or Escocita species. Number of plant fungi they produce these kind of a symptom, but Phytophthora is a very common for a blight or alternaria, early blight, sometimes caused by alternaria alternatus. These are the common symptoms. Then another we have a blast. So these are again necrotic lesions which are visible on the leaves, nodes, and at the base of the head in case of a rice. So there is a rapid browning and death of the tissue in this case. For example, the rice blast, which is caused by pyricularia or rosae. So we have a symptom here. You can see it looks like symptoms are very common on the nodes also, and necrotic lesions are very visible on these plants due to the blast. Canker. Canker is very common. Citrus canker is one very common example. And then cankers are caused by fungi also. So these are localized necrotic lesions which are sunken and surrounded by successive layers of the cork cell. Sunken ka matlab hai they are deep down somewhere, right? Absorbed under inside the surface. They are seen as a sunken, right? So these are sunken and they are surrounded by many layers of the cork cell. As you can see, this is a typical target shaped symptom of Nectria canker on the maple, right? This is one example of the canker. Usually trees में बहुत ज़्यादा common होते हैं cankers. Then we have scab. Again, apple scab or a potato scab is a very common disease. And these are localized lesions which are due to slightly raised and cracked outer layer of the fruit, leaves or tubers, or a cracked tissue, they become dry and a corky. So they give very corky appearance to the apple. So apple scab, which is caused by Venturia iniqualis, was one of the very important disease which reduced the economic, because you see these nobody is going to buy these kind of apple which are showing these symptoms. हो सकता है आप इसके skin cut करोगे अंदर ठीक होगा, लेकिन visually they look very sick and very, I mean, people will think that they cannot buy such things because they will not taste good. So आपको fruits जब हम buy करते हैं तो उनकी appearance matters the most, right? When we go to the market and when we buy fruit, we look for the appearance certainly. So this reduces their economic value. Then we have Anthracanos. Again, it is a type of a disease in which dark necrotic sunken lesions are produced on the leaves, fruits, and stem. The fungal pathogens, they produce their spores in the asexual fruiting body, which is called acerulus. And example is here Calictotrichum capsicai, which is causing Anthracanos of chilies. So on the chilies, you can see the fruit, total fruit is destroyed. We cannot consume the chili fruit here, right, due to this disease. Then we have blotch. So these are usually large, irregular shaped spots on the surface of plant leaves, stems, or flowers. And in the beginning, you know, when the new leaf arises, these spots may appear as a small red or purple color, circular spot on the upper surfaces, and then later they are seen on the lower surfaces also. And when the leaves, they become mature, the spots on the upper surfaces are usually glossy dark purple, and those surfaces are brown color, so chestnut brown color. For example, the Septoria typici blotch of wheat and Cladosporium leaf blotch. These are the two pathogens which causes these kind of a symptoms. Then there's dieback is a disease also basically. So it is a progressive and extensive death of the shoots and roots that start from the tip of the shoots. Dieback means ulta, ऊपर से नीचे की तरफ. So basically it starts from the tip and then it goes towards the downward, right? So some Theobroma species they causes dieback of the mango, dieback of other trees are also being reported. Then we have a symptom called decline and a pallor. So decline means slow and progressive decline in the plant health and vigor. And plant, they show abnormality in growth. Symptoms of dieback are also visible. The leaves are very small, they are brittle, and discoloration of the leaves is a common symptom. So vigor means the overall look of the plant is reduced due to this, right? Then in pallor, we have a chlorophyll in the leaves, it is dissolved, and hence the abnormal pale coloration of the diseased area occur when the pathogen is present on or inside the leaves. Right? Then we have other symptoms like damping off or a basal stem rot. So damping off is basically disease in the nursery plants or a younger plant. So young or seedlings, they collapse at the back to the pathogen attack before or after the germination. So this is the disease of a nursery fields, right? So older plants are seldom killed by damping off, but there is a definite reduction in size and growth pattern. Hence the yield is reduced. The common pathogen of this are Pythium species, Phytophthora or Physoctonia, right? Then we have a basal stem rot. So this is, as the name indicates, the stem rots at the base. It starts rotting at the base. So this means the disintegration and rotting of the stem close to the ground associated with the destruction of the cambium and a vascular tissue. Hence, the plant shows typical symptoms of the wilting, right? So wilting is a disease basically which is associated with the vascular bundles in the plant. Somewhere where they are affected or impacted, the plants, they start to wilt. Then we have a root rot, the disintegration and decay of the tissues of the roots by the various fungal pathogens. Then soft and the dry rots, wet rots are caused by certain fungi which causes disintegration of tissues in the leaves, or there are sometimes dry rots which are caused by the fungi. That means the tissues are not wet, rather they become dry. Now, second types of symptoms are abnormal growth and development of the tissues. That means it could be any kind of abnormal growth which can be seen on the plant, right? Those are being categorized in the second category. So first one in this are galls, right? So what does galls mean? They are abnormal growth, that means swollen or raised tissue, which is formed by interaction of certain fungi on the leaves, stem, roots, or flowers. So galls are some growths or some raised tissues on the plant that we can see, which are formed due to the fungi, right? For example, this is an example of a Dibotran fungi which causes a poop gall of a choke cherry. So I believe this looks like a poop on the tree, so that's why it is called as a poop gall on the cherry basically. They have just named it on its appearance based basically, right? Then we have a club root. So gall formation or distortion take place in the roots, giving the appearance of a spindle or a clubs. For example, Plasmofera Pernospera causes club root of the crucifers. Then we have warts also, and these are again hard protuberances which are produced on the stem tubers, which can be caused by again fungal or a viral pathogen. For example, Symphytrium endobiticum causes potato wart disease. Then we have a powdery scab. So it is totally different from the simple scab. The infected tissue has a brown spongy spots here, which are dry. And in severe conditions, they also look like warts on the fruits, right? So again, it is an example of a powdery scab of a potato is given here, right? So this is interesting. This is known as a witch's broom disease, right? So a tree gives appearance of a witch's broom, which becomes a broom-like due to the infection of certain fungi, right? So in this disease, there is a profuse branching of the twigs in which new twigs are turned upward short and bear small leaves. So they become shorter than the other. So in this picture, you can see all other leaves are fine, but just some leaves or some are small, they give the appearance of the witch's broom, right? So this is in a cocoa tree, the witch's broom, which is caused by the fungi. Leaf curling, it's a common symptom of viruses. But yes, these kind of symptoms are also shown by fungi. For example, this means curling and discoloration of the leaves due to fungal pathogen. In the picture, the example is of a Taphrina deformis, which is a fungal pathogen. It is causing leaf curling in the Taphrina deformis, cause leaf curling in the peach. Basically, it's called a peach leaf curl disease also. Then there is a atrophy. So atrophy means reduction in a size due to parasitic fungi, which induce hypertrophy and the growth is said to be suppressed. Galls और हम सबको कह रहे थे external growth है ना, extra growth है. Atrophy means there is a reduced growth here. For example, the Pernospera brassica suppresses the floral buds in the brassica species. So they reduce the growth, or the growth is suppressed in this case. Then third category was the other symptoms. So other symptoms may the first and important one is gummosis. So as the name indicate, gummosis means the oozing out of some amber colored exudate from the diseased tissue, could be the bark of the stem or trees or fruits, and it later sets into the solid mass, right? The plant produce again, this is again a defensive mechanism which is being used by the plant against the pathogen, right? So when the certain pathogen is attacking, they are trying to, or they are getting penetrated. So as a result of the defense mechanism, they start producing these kind of a liquid, it starts coming out, right? Against, so that the plants, they produce gum as a defensive mechanism against the entry of pathogen into the host tissue. So different species of Botryosphera, they causes gummosis in different plant, and this tree is particularly showing gummosis in the mango trunk. Then another, we have wilts and vascular wilts also, right? So in case of, basically there are two type of a wilting diseases. First is a wilts which are caused due to the fungal attack, and second wilt is caused due to the lack of water or due to the excessive watering in the plant. दोनों cases में क्या होता है, wilting होती है, right? So in case of a fungal attack, the vascular bundle is blocked out by the pathogen, and basically उससे it will result in the long rigidity, right? So plant क्या होते हैं, वो droop कर जाते हैं, बिल्कुल ऐसे ऐसे लगता है जैसे मर गए. जैसे कभी-कभी आपने गर्मियों में notice करना अपने plants को, right? In your pots, if you don't water them, they seem to be drooping. So that is a wilt. लेकिन जो wilt due to loss of water होती है, that is a temporary wilt. वो ठीक हो जाएगी जब आप पानी दोगे. But wilting due to the fungi is a permanent one. वो ठीक नहीं होगी आपकी, because the infection is there, right? So wilting due to pathogen attack is permanent. Whereas most common vascular wilt are caused by Fusarium and Verticillium. These two fungi are the wilt fungi. They are responsible for causing wilting diseases in the plant, right? Then we have rusts. Rusts are also very important diseases caused by fungi. So they have a rusty appearance on the leaves and stems of the host plant due to the infection caused by the uridinase rust fungi. So we have a stem rust of a wheat, and it could be a yellow rust, it could be a black rust also. There are 2-3 types of the rust that is caused by this Puccinia species on the wheat. Then we have a white rust. White rust of crucifers caused by Albigo candida is very common. So white colored spots of conidia of spores, they are being produced on the undersurface of the leaves. So we can say that it is a white rust. Then we have a smuts. It is again disease which is characterized by masses of dark powdery spores of a smut fungi, which belong to the order Astiliginides, and they causes smut-like disease. Wheat smut, बहुत common diseases. Rust and smut of a wheat is a very common disease which causes lot of losses, right? Then we have a mildews, right? So mildews could be the downy mildew or could be the powdery mildew, and they basically form a white mycelium on the surface of the leaves, which is visible. अगर हम ध्यान से देखेंगे leaf को, तो mildew like or white mycelium like growth we can see on the surface of the leaf, right? So if whitish mycelium is present on the upper surface, it is called powdery mildew, and if it is present on the lower surface, it is called as a downy mildew. So Plasmofera, Pernospera, Pseudopernospera, all are the downy mildew fungi, right? They cause lot of Downy mildew diseases. Then we have a ergot. The grains in the heads of the cereals, they are replaced by black or purple color sclerotia. It is a ergot fruiting body of ergot fungus, Claviceps purpurea, just before the harvest. So this lead in the reduction of it because these grains cannot be consumed by people. We need to discard them. They cause a lot of losses there. These are again some examples like stripe rust, symptoms on the wheat. These are the septoria leaf spot. Septoria leaf spot of chrysanthemum is a very common disease. It causes on vegetables also the leaf spots. Then Cercospora leaf spots, they look like this. Then Alternaria leaf spots, they look like this. So basically these are the common symptoms which are being caused by the fungi on the plant, and you need to remember this. You need to see these, you need to check out these symptoms. आप कहीं पे भी गूगल भी करोगे, कहीं पे भी करोगे, आपको बहुत symptoms मिलेंगे with the name, with the definition, the kind of symptom it is producing. Because symptoms are very important in case of a plant pathogen. When we talk about plant pathogens, we cannot move further without going through the symptoms. Symptoms पढ़ना बहुत important है और ये सारे symptoms आप पढ़ोगे. It is not tough. You just need बहुत सारे symptom देखने से या उनके terms में जो words होते हैं उसी से हमें पता चल रहा है वो किस तरह के symptoms हैं, right? जैसे necrotic है तो death हो रही है, short hole है तो hole बन रहा है, right? तो they are wilting है तो plant droop हो रहा है, canker है तो there is some canker like a raised growth on the plant. So just थोड़ा सा दिमाग लगाओगे तो you will be able to learn these symptoms, right? So that's all from my side. अगर आपको कुछ पूछना है so it is open for discussion. Okay, नहीं फाइन. तो आप कल पढ़ के आना. कल हम पहले इसको पढ़ेंगे फिर अगला लेक्चर पर स्टार्ट करेंगे. Tomorrow we have a practical class, I guess, right? So let's see what we do in a practical. Okay, so we can do the attendance part here. Adish Mishra. Pathoiba.
Yes, ma'am.
Ayushi.
Present, ma'am.
Sam.
Present, ma'am.
Devanshi.
Present, ma'am.
Rishita.
Present, ma'am.
Janvi.
Present, ma'am.
Kshitij.
Present, ma'am.
Manaswini.
Present, ma'am.
Namrita.
Present, ma'am.
Nandini.
Present, ma'am.
Nehal.
Present, ma'am.
Rupal.
Present, ma'am.
Sahiba.
Present, ma'am.
Anjana.
Present, ma'am.
Shivani Mishra.
Present, ma'am.
Anvi.
Present, ma'am.
Ritesh.
Present, ma'am.
Vivek. Yukta and Yuvraj.
Present, ma'am.
Yuvraj, are you there? Yes, Vivek. How are you,
Present,
Vivek,
ma'am.
now? Are you okay?
I'm feeling better, ma'am.
You better? Take care, huh? Okay. Okay, students, I'll
Ma'am,
see you tomorrow in the... Yes?
ma'am, Mathuba present.
Pathoiba present. Okay, जाग गए आप.
Excuse
Okay,
me.
fine. Yes?
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Am
Who's
I
this?
audible?
Yes?
Ma'am Shakti.
हाँ, शक्ति बताओ.
I'm present, ma'am. Actually, my call dropped due to network issue.
Okay, fine, Shakti. No problem. Okay, students, I'll see you tomorrow then. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.